Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a team that I went 24-1 with in the Open Great League. The team is BUZZWOLE lead, Credilli safe switch, Lanturn as the closer. Went 14-1 with it last night on stream, and 10-0 with it today. I know it's early season, but you're going to notice from the opponents that I battle, we're going up against some pretty good opponents that have placed very well in play Pokemon tournaments. BUZZWOLE is the anti-meta king, being able to force switch even from unexpected things like Skarmory, and the back two Pokemon cover its weakness to fire. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. Hopping into the first match, picking up a bit of an interesting lead, BUZZWOLE into Superior. BUZZWOLE should win all even shielding scenarios. Unfortunately, my BUZZWOLE is a pretty poor IV, so I believe the zeros actually come down to a tie. I shield the Aerial Ace, opponent save switches into Talonflame, and I have an amazing response available in Credilli. Credilli does very well into the Talon, as it's only taking neutral from Talonflame's energy, while returning fire with double super effective damage. I tank the fly, Rock Slide, gets the one shot. Opponent, if they want to, can send back in the Superior, but I'm going to be able to output quite a bit of damage here from the Credilli. Back in comes the Superior, I'm firing off the Rock Slide. They know this is going to do way less than a lunge, so they are going to no shield. I continue to farm up with the Credilli. Very nice charge move timing here from the opponent. They are going to fire off the Aerial Ace, as they don't need to go for the full Frenzy Plant. I can send in the BUZZWOLE and fire off the lunge. Lunge will be lethal. Decision time for the opponent. They are going to commit the shield. In the back, it's Skarmory, and I have a great response available in Lanturn. It is very tempting when you see the Talonflame safe switch to just send in the Lanturn, but if you do, then unfortunately, my Credilli would have been in a very difficult spot going up against the Skarmory, so I had to make a bit of a read that the opponent was trying to bait out the Lanturn, as Lanturn kind of feels like the Pokemon that runs this meta more or less, so I end up saving the Lanturn, and it pays massive dividends as it's the Skarmory in the back. Lanturn takes down Superior and takes the game. We see an amazing lead in the next match, BUZZWOLE into Umbreon. Opponent is going to save switch into Defense Deoxys after throwing a Snarl. I can fire off the Lunge here. Lunge is going to do quite a lot of damage to the Deoxys, and now I can send in Credilli. Credilli is going to be able to withstand the debuff Psycho Boost from the Deoxys no problem. My goal here is basically just to absorb the energy, and this way I can preserve the BUZZWOLE for dealing with that Umbreon later on, as Umbreon is very strong neutrally into both the Lanturn and the Credilli. Opponent firing off yet another Psycho Boost. Not going to be a problem, I can absorb that damage, go for the Rock Slide. This does, however, set up a bit of an uncomfortable scenario where the Umbreon can potentially go for a zero shield Snarl down. And if they lead with 100 energy here, BUZZWOLE with my IVs, not the tankiest thing around. It is a bit tankier if you have a better spread. Unfortunately, this is just the best IV spread that I could get through trading. And as you can see by the CP, 1469, we are not doing well in terms of IVs. I will be able to tank a Last Resort though, so I can let this through. Opponent is going to be firing off the Last Resort. Let's see what they have in the back. They have Lanturn, and this game is over. I can fire off the Lunge, establish a debuff, and then with a shield advantage and my opponent debuffed, I can bring in my own Lanturn to the mirror. At this point, the opponent knows there's no longer a win con, and they resign the match. The good leads continue in the next match, BUZZWOLE into Whiscash. Opponent is going to save switch into Charjabug. Charjabug, a pretty cool pick. I'm going to farm up, switch into Credilli. Not only do I get the Bullet Seed sneak through, but I'm able to catch the Discharge, and due to the Grass subtyping, that is going to be resisted. So now I should be in a pretty nice spot. I have a ton of energy on the BUZZWOLE, and Credilli can threaten this Charjabug with super effective Rock Slides. Opponent gonna fire off the X-Scissor. This is super effective damage, but again, Charjabug runs Volt Switch, which is resisted due to the Grass subtyping, so my opponent's gonna have a very difficult time farming down here. Rock Slide will be shielded, Charjabug firing off another X-Scissor, and I will start shielding the Credilli. I do want to make sure that I can land a Rock Slide here, as this Rock Slide should just about KO. It's going to be very close. Charjabug able to hang on. Charjabug able to make it to the last second charge move. I have a decision to make, but I need to keep alignment. I cannot have that Whiscash lined up against my Lanturn. In the back, opponent has Altaria, and I'm in a very good spot. All I have to do is make sure that my opponent doesn't catch a Thunderbolt, so I'm just going to intentionally overfarm here. My opponent switches at the exact right moment, but unfortunately, I hold on to the energy. I can send in the BUZZWOLE, and the energy that I farmed from earlier comes in handy. Applying an immediate debuff to the Whiscash. Whiscash can go for the Scald, that's perfectly fine, but I'm going to be able to withstand that damage. They do get the debuff. I'm firing off the Lunge here. I should go for the Superpower, as Superpower does more. Either way, the opponent is going to have to throw energy, and I have a ton of stored energy on my Lantern, so I should be in a very good spot here. Mud Bomb will connect. I'm farming up. I decide against the Spark Down. Out of an abundance of caution, I will go for the Surf to get the knockout, and then I'm very close to the Thunderbolt. Opponent can go for the Moonblast here from the Altaria, but Moonblast not going to cut it. The Lantern much too healthy, able to make it to the Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt easily going to be taking care of the Altaria, and again, we're able to take the win. We see a Nightmare lead in the next match, BUZZWOLE into Nidoqueen. Honestly, Nidoqueen wasn't really a Pokemon that I was planning on when creating this team, so seeing it here is a big problem. They're going to stay in here, fire off the Poison Fang, and this Nidoqueen is going to be a right pain to get rid of. Opponent is now going to counter switch into a Trevenant. I have a nice energy lead on the Credilli, but I am debuffed by -1 on my defense. And that means that when they make it to the Seed Bomb will actually pick up a KO here, so I'm forced to commit a shield. I'm going to shield, throw 1 Bullet Seed, and fire off the Rock Slide on good charge move timing. Opponent has to shield this or they will get KO'd. They let it go. In comes the Poliwrath. Poliwrath unable to get the counter down. Credilli making it to the Grass Knot. Grass Knot connects, dealing massive damage to the Poliwrath. Poliwrath is going to make it to the last second Scald, but the counter went through, which means they have been KO'd. They only have 1 Pokemon left in the match, which means I can now apply a permanent attack debuff with this lunge. Opponent no shields the lunge, and this is still going to be a very tough game. They have enough for the Earth Power. Do they full send? Do they bait? I shield. It's the Earth Power. That's a big shield, and thankfully they do not get the defense drop from the Earth Power. I'm at the back-to-back serfs. The fact that they're not a Shadow Nidoqueen and their attack has been lowered by 1 stage means that I can live in Earth Power. Therefore, they're going to need to go for a Poison Fang and an Earth Power, some combination. They go for the Poison Fang first. I'm firing off the Surf. It's now going to be a race. Nidoqueen versus the Lantern. Lantern making it to the Surf. 1 fast move before the Nidoqueen makes it to their Earth Power, taking down the Nidoqueen, and despite the terrible lead, taking the win. Moving into the next match, leading BUZZWOLE into Shadow Dragonair. BUZZWOLE is able to win the 0 shield here, but unfortunately, if the Dragonair uses a shield, then Dragonair is able to control switch advantage for the game. So my plan here is, if they shield, I'm just not going to shield. I'm going to let this go, because if I shield, I'm losing switch advantage anyway, so I may as well take the shield advantage and send in Credilli. Opponent safe switches into Defense Deoxys. I'm going to stay in here for a little bit and fire off the Grass Knot. Grass Knot will do some very valuable chip damage. I'm going to bank 1 more Bullet Seed of energy and send in the Lantern. Lantern going to be able to withstand the charge moves from the Deoxys, and then I just have to hope that Credilli can do well in the back, but the fact that they pivoted seems to imply that they're strong to Credilli in the back, which definitely would not be good for me. I go for the Surf, hoping that it would KO, but it's Defense Deoxys. It can always hang on and make it to the move. Psycho Boost will connect. In the back, opponent has Lantern, and oh my goodness, this might actually be winnable. I'm going to have to play very carefully though. Thunderbolt connects. Can I switch out? No, the switch clock does not come up in time. In comes the Credilli. Credilli farming up energy. We're going to see the Surf deployed by the Lantern. I'm going to commit the shield here. Opponent fires off their next Surf and they throw on alignment. I'm going to let this go, expecting the opponent to switch. In comes the Dragonair, and I'm at the double Rock Slide. This is big. My opponent is going to be forced to shield here, but I have another Rock Slide right away, so they're not going to be able to get any additional Dragon Breath damage. Rock Slide gets the KO. It's going to be a race. Can Lantern get the spark down of Credilli? No, Credilli makes it to the 1 HP move. I had the Grass Knot as well, but Rock Slide will secure the knockout and take the win. We've got a battle of fighters in the next match, BUZZWOLE versus Medicham. Honestly, I haven't seen many Medicham this season, so seeing this one was a bit of a surprise. Farming up energy with the BUZZWOLE, Medicham throws after 6 counters, which means this is only an Ice Punch. This clues me to the fact that they're running Dynamic Punch as their second charge move, mainly due to the fact that Psychic has now been nerfed in back-to-back seasons. Lunge will connect, lowering the opponent's attack, and it's looking like BUZZWOLE actually wins the 0 shield versus Medicham. You can see BUZZWOLE flexing there, being like, guess what, Medicham? There's a new fighting type in town. Oh, let's go. Lunge gets the shield. We're going to see the Medicham get the counter down, but they're at -2 attack. I send in the Lantern. They're throwing energy, and this is great. This energy is double debuffed. The opponent probably should have switched out and saved the energy, because when non-double debuffed, that Dynamic Punch does quite a lot of damage, but since it is debuffed, I can tank it very comfortably, and I have a massive energy advantage now. Opponent sends in Clodsire, and they are very weak to an energy advantage Lantern. Surf will connect. I am on Spark, so I have no fast move pressure here. However, the Surfs are adding up, and I entered this matchup with a massive energy lead. They're firing off energy. They clearly don't have a great response to Lantern's energy, so I'm going to start shielding the Lantern. I'm looking to overfarm, and I'm going to be firing off the Surf, putting pressure on the opponent's final shield. Are they willing to shield the Clodsire? Yes, they are. I continue to farm up with the Lantern. I'm going to be expending the final shield, and I'm going to look to try and carefully overfarm here, watching for a potential catch. In the back, they have a Water Gun Lantern, and now we see why they couldn't switch. They were very weak to Lantern's energy in the back. Water Gun Lantern is going to go for the Surf, but even with Water Gun, Lantern is not flipping this matchup. I fire off the Grass Knot. This will be massive super effective damage to the Lantern. And from here, I should just be able to Bullet Seed farm all the way down and leave with the Grass Knot to secure the knockout onto the Clodsire. Surf will connect. And we see Credilli standing strong, proving why it's been in so many videos this season. I love this thing. It's an amazing core breaker. Takes down the Clodsire, and we take the game. Moving into the next match, leading BUZZWOLE into Shadow Swampert. And this is a pretty decent matchup for the BUZZWOLE. Opponent is going to be firing off the Hydro Cannon. I am going to shield the first here because I know obviously if I can get a debuff, then my opponent is going to be doing a lot less damage in the future. But they're going to actually save the Swampert, save switch into Sableye, and now I'm going to respond with Credilli. With a Swampert lead, I'm always expecting there's going to be some kind of flyer in the back, so Lantern should be universally strong versus whatever they have back there. So now I can just send the Credilli into the Sableye, tank a move no problem, fire off the Rock Slide, and pick up the KO. Opponent sends in Shadow Swampert into Credilli. I'm firing off the Rock Slide. Great counting by my opponent, knowing that I'm actually not at enough energy here for the Grass Knot, but I can still get them low enough that now I can just send in the Lantern. And my opponent does not have a flyer in the back. They have Skeledirge, and Skeledirge up a shield is going to make this endgame very uncomfortable for me. I fire off the Surf, they have a shield, and my goodness, Skeledirge with 2 shields to hide behind, even if you're a Lantern, is quite scary. They land the Shadow Ball, that does massive damage. I'm making sure to throw on very good timing here. I cannot afford to let them get a free Incinerate. The Surf will be shielded. I'm farming up quite a bit of energy, switching into the BUZZWOLE to catch the Disarming Voice. This is super effective damage. Opponent is going to undercharge. They're looking for the full Incinerate farm down here. Do they get it? They do not. I'm able to make it to the Superpower. Both moves are double resisted. Superpower gets them very low. In comes the Swampert, and I'm firing off the Surf. They have the back-to-back charge moves here, so the game comes down to this. Can Skeledirge live the Spark? If they do, they win. But they do not. The Spark KOs, and by the narrowest of margins, we take the win. Moving into the next match, and we see another Mudboy now leading BUZZWOLE into Whiscash. Whiscash is able to outpace and make a Scald before I'm able to make it to a lunge, so I am going to be shielding up here. Scald, of course, does have a 50% chance to debuff, and unfortunately they do get it. So my attack is now lowered until I switch out. I fire off the lunge. That doesn't do a ton of damage. Opponent now sends in Shadow Gligar. I'm just going to go for a lunge here, not expecting a shield as it doesn't do a ton, but my opponent actually commits a shield. That's incredibly nice for me, and since they shielded, I can actually bring in Lantern here. Whereas previously, I probably would have had to send in the Credilli if they didn't shield, but now, with Lantern, we're at shield parity, so I'm in a pretty good spot. I can fire off the Surf, that does quite a lot of damage. Opponent is going to be firing off energy here. I decide to commit the shield as they go for the dig, and get the Spark farm down. This way, I do leave with some energy, and honestly, I mean, Whiscash is pretty bulky, but a Surf is going to get it low. They're going to fire off a Mud Bomb, that's perfectly fine, and now I have a choice. I can either get energy on the BUZZWOLE or onto my Credilli. In the back, it's Talonflame, and oh my goodness, Credilli is feasting, because Talonflame can't even win the 1-0 here. As we're going to see, Credilli just able to withstand that Flame Charge no problem. Rock Slide grabs the shield, and Rock Slide number 2 is going to get the one-shot before they make their second Flame Charge. One of the many reasons why I absolutely love Credilli this season, and we take the win. All good things must come to an end, so let's take a look at the game that unfortunately ended the win streak at 11. Picking up a pretty okay lead for BUZZWOLE. I'm leading the BUZZWOLE into Defense Deoxys. Lunge is going to do a ton of damage. I'm farming up, I'm switching into Credilli, and I catch the Psycho Boost onto the Credilli, where it's not going to be doing a whole lot of damage. Opponent now going to send in Trevenant, seeing a bit more Trevenant, and Trevenant is not a fantastic Pokemon for this team to see. Rock Slide is going to connect. Trevenant farming up, and they play to the CMP tie. They have to go for the Shadow Ball if they want the KO, and they do. Shadow Ball is going to get the knockout. Back in comes BUZZWOLE. BUZZWOLE farming up, going for the lunge, and it's the CMP tie. I'm hoping that they just let the Trevenant go, but they do not. They shield the Trevenant, and now I'm in quite a bit of trouble. Shadow Ball will be shielded. I'm farming up with the BUZZWOLE. BUZZWOLE trying to make it to the lunge. I can't quite get there. I'm hoping that they go for the Seed Bomb here, but they have the Shadow Ball. That gets the KO. I send in the Lantern. Opponent is going to send in Defense Deoxys. Deoxys is going to be met with a Surf. Surf is going to get the KO. Opponent still has the Trevenant, and in the back, they have Shadow Gligar. And unfortunately, I have taken some chip damage here from the counters from that Deoxys, so I'm just not going to be able to win this. They know that as the Shadow, they can no shield there. And at this point, my only hope is to try and call a bait. They full send the dig, and unfortunately, we lose the game. All in all, I think that BUZZWOLE is a really cool anti-meta Pokemon that you can use to get some pretty nice success in the Open Great League. The BUZZWOLE Lantern Core was very strong last season as well, and I feel like it's even stronger this season. Granted, there are a lot of flyers out there, but that means there's got to be a lot of Pokemon to cover for those flyers, and that's the niche that BUZZWOLE can occupy. BUZZWOLE doing super well against the mud boys like Whiscash, doing very well against the grasses, doing well against a lot of those anti-flying Pokemon, and then in the back you have Lantern ready to knock those flyers out of the sky. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.